In Spain last month, socialists suffered humiliating losses in regional elections as unemployment rises and the middle class is squeezed. Can the anti-austerity polls come up with answers to the nation's fiscal problems? I'm Allen Barton. Stand by for the front page. Joining me in studio, Terry Jones of Investors Business Daily and Scott Shackford of Reason. Welcome, guys. Terry, we'll start with you. Last month, Spain's Socialist Party suffered these huge losses in the regional elections in all over the country, the Basque Country. What's the significance of these defeats? Because, of course, they're confronting sort of just a rock and a hard place problem with their finances. Who has the answer here? I mean, these guys are being thrown out, but who's going to be pulled in, and what do you think is going on?
Well, it's a very difficult thing right now for any country, because they realize that no matter whom they put into power, they are basically constrained by reality. And for a long time, that wasn't the case. They were able to spend like wild drunken sailors and tax like there was no tomorrow. Well, tomorrow has arrived, and guess what? It's here. In this case, the socialists were actually the ones who began the austerity in 2010 once the crisis hit. And so they got blamed for a lot of it, and now the conservatives are picking up where they left off. But the conservatives
it's not like they're saying, yeah, we're not going to do austerity.
Nope.
You know, I mean, there's no option.
And this plays out against an interesting backdrop. I don't mean to go on here, but you know, what's happening here is in the northern parts of Spain, there are now, basically separation movements in Catalonia and Basque Country, and they're gaining strength. And so it's not out of the question to consider that part or all of Spain might at some point try to separate, and that would precipitate quite a crisis. There
have been over 57 demonstrations in Spain against the government, the spending cuts. Unemployment rate is around 25%. They are unhappy to find themselves in the position of wanting to vote out this government, not knowing what party can solve these problems. Scott, you know, as Terry said, there's no answer for reality. Once reality smacks you in the face, there's nothing you can do. You've got to you got to figure it out. There's no borrowing more. There's no more borrowing to be done. If you can borrow, those people who are going to lend it to you are demanding cuts.
Yeah. They did have some good luck earlier this week. They had Spain had a bond sale that actually did better than expected, even though bond yields are up. So they're getting some support, and actually because of that, the Prime Minister is trying to resist, a bailout. They're being offered a bailout and being pressured heavily by the European Union to take it, and he's kind of trying to resist that. So it's interesting to see, where that's going to go.
The idea of the ECB and what they would ask for in terms of the bailout versus other loans. I mean, what do you see going across? We can broaden it from Spain if we need to in terms of the European fiscal crisis, which is, exactly where we're heading. I mean, it's astounding that everyone was so that we voted the way we did, because here we go. Like, I don't see any way out of it. What do you think?
No, there really isn't any way out of it. And Margaret Thatcher, as usual, said it best. The big problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money. They've run out of other people's money. And, even if Spain does have a good bond sale, future bond sales are not going to be that, auctions are not going to be that successful. The interest rates will creep up because their ability to pay will diminish over time, because they're not making the cuts necessary to get their budgets in balance. And this is going on across Europe right now.
Because you've got Greece, you've got Portugal, you've got Italy is not doing very well, you've got Ireland. France, no, France has their 75% tax rate, though. I mean, shouldn't that fix everything?
Yeah,
Scott?
it should be.
You got a nice. You're going right after the rich.
Yeah. I think where are the French rich going to now? I think they're going to England. Which has to be really bad if you get French people going to England, because they don't like each other.
Right. Yeah, that's another issue. Are you going to have sort of population flight in certain is this going to harbor demographic shifts? You mentioned the idea of separatist movements. And, it looks as though this could be a real change for the continent.
This is happening all over Europe. I mentioned the separatist movements. I'm not just saying this because I'm a crackpot. I am a crackpot, but that's not why I'm saying
that's not the reason you're a crackpot, though.
But it's not just Catalonia, but northern Italy. There's a group there called the Lombard League that wants to separate because they're wealthy and the south is not. In Belgium, the Flemish want to separate from the others. The Scottish want to leave the British Union. So I mean, there are a lot of countries now that are countries within countries, nationalities within nations that want to go off on their own and say we can manage our own affairs a lot better than these guys have done.
Scott, you see any potential for that? I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a serious secession movement in the United States, but as we head towards more and more chaos here financially, which I just don't see us avoiding.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you're going to have people saying, California, go your own way.
Yeah, well, because of because we have states rather than countries, we don't have it's happening. We're having population shifts. We're seeing, California's
fleeing.
Yes, California's corporation tax revenues are down like 15% over last year. I was just looking at those numbers yesterday.
Well, I got to tell you, with them passing Prop 30, yes. I mean, I started to have the thought, okay, there's going to be a time in my life where I'm going to get the heck out of this state. Like, I mean, like, who needs it? I mean, my business is based here. It's not like going to happen tomorrow, but you start to go, there's got to be something better than this for the long haul. For the long haul. All right, gentlemen, that's all the time we have for Scott and Terry. I'm Allen Barton, and you've been watching Front Page.